The year is 2026. Picture this. You're walking into a museum, ready for the usual quiet reverence, the hushed whispers among static displays. But what if, instead, you could stride directly into a conversation with history itself? Not a dusty portrait, not a yellowed letter, but a fully interactive, AI-generated mind, ready to debate the very foundations of American commerce. This isn't a speculative fiction. It's happening. This weekend, a groundbreaking event unfolds in Boston, promising to redefine our understanding of historical engagement. The Museum of American Finance, reborn and reimagined, is throwing open its doors. Its star attraction? None other than Alexander Hamilton, the brilliant, controversial architect of America's financial system, brought back to life by artificial intelligence. Imagine him, not as a character in a musical, but as a digital oracle, engaging you in real-time dialogue about the intricate dance of economics that shaped a nation. What does it mean when the past can speak back, when a founding father can articulate his vision with contemporary clarity? Are we simply creating a clever novelty, or are we forging an entirely new pathway to understanding our origins, a living bridge across centuries? The stakes aren't just about entertainment. They're about the future of historical literacy, about how generations to come will grasp the profound complexities that underpin our modern world. A revolutionary dialogue. It's an experiment poised to either illuminate or perhaps fundamentally alter our perception of history forever. So, where exactly is this extraordinary convergence of past and future taking place? Our journey begins in Boston, Massachusetts, a city steeped in revolutionary history, now home to a revolution of its own. Specifically, we're headed to Commonwealth Pier, a vibrant waterfront district that's transformed from a historical shipping hub into a dynamic nexus of innovation and culture. It's a fitting backdrop for an institution dedicated to understanding the flows of capital and influence that have shaped the United States. This new chapter for the Museum of American Finance unfolds dramatically on July 3, 2026. This isn't just any opening. It marks the institution's re-establishment in a permanent exhibition space after several years without a physical home. Originally a New York fixture, the museum now takes root here on Boston's bustling waterfront, signaling a renewed, ambitious commitment to public education. It aims to meticulously depict the history and profound influence of U.S. financial institutions, from the earliest colonial ventures to the intricate markets of today. At the heart of this new endeavor stands the AI-generated Alexander Hamilton. He isn't merely a display, he's an interactive educator. Visitors will find themselves able to chat directly with this digital founding father, delving into his economic philosophies, the challenges of nation-building finance, and the enduring principles that still resonate. The museum's mission is clear: to render America's often intimidating financial systems not just understandable, but genuinely captivating for everyone. And in a remarkable gesture towards accessibility, admission is entirely free for all who enter. A grand opening, indeed. The journey to establish Boston's Museum of American Finance, featuring an interactive Alexander Hamilton, wasn't a sudden inspiration. It was the culmination of decades of evolving public consciousness and technological leaps. Following the calamitous financial crisis of 2008, a pervasive sense of public mistrust in financial institutions gripped the nation. Millions lost their homes, their savings, their retirement security, exposing a stark deficiency in collective financial literacy. Policymakers and educators alike recognized the urgent need for a more transparent, understandable approach to America's complex economic engine. In 2010, the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act aimed to overhaul regulation, yet its labyrinthine complexity often left the average citizen more bewildered than enlightened. This period saw a surge in grassroots financial literacy initiatives, from community college workshops to online educational platforms, though their reach remained fragmented. By 2014, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, under Director Richard Cordray, began pushing for clearer disclosure requirements, trying to demystify everything from mortgage agreements to credit card statements. Still, the historical context, the why behind these systems, often remained elusive. Then came the cultural phenomenon of Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton, an American musical, premiering off-Broadway in 2015. Suddenly, Alexander Hamilton, once a figure relegated to history textbooks and $10 bills, burst into the mainstream consciousness. His brilliant, if sometimes controversial, vision for America's financial architecture, the national bank, the assumption of state debts, the mint, became a topic of widespread fascination. Historians like Ron Chernow, whose biography inspired the musical, saw a renewed opportunity to engage the public with the foundational economic debates that shaped the young republic. Amidst this burgeoning interest, the concept for a comprehensive museum dedicated to American financial history began to coalesce in Boston, a city steeped in its own rich financial legacy, from the first colonial trading posts to today's bustling investment firms on State Street. First discussions in 2018, spearheaded by Boston University economist Dr. Evelyn Reed and former Massachusetts State Treasurer Stephen Chun, centered on a traditional museum model. However, the question of truly engaging a skeptical public, of making abstract economic principles tangible, lingered. A genuine challenge. What could transcend static exhibits? Funding began to gather from significant philanthropic trusts, including the Mellon Foundation and the Fidelity Charitable Gift Fund, by early 2021. Their grants, totaling over $75 million, were contingent on a new educational approach, one that promised to bridge the historical narrative with contemporary relevance. They desired an experience, not just an exhibition. This wasn't merely about displaying artifacts. It was about fostering an intellectual dialogue. The stage was set for something truly revolutionary, something that would harness the very latest in digital interaction. The first museum design, while ambitious, still felt conventional. It offered timelines, documents, perhaps even animated reenactments. But Dr. Reed and her team, pushing the boundaries in their temporary office space on Congress Street, yearned for more. They needed a spark, a way to truly immerse visitors in the mind of the nation's financial architect. That moment arrived with jarring clarity on a blustery Tuesday in November 2023 during a critical review meeting. The atmosphere in the conference room was thick with polite skepticism. Representatives from the major funding bodies, including Fidelity's formidable CEO, Eleanor Vance, sat facing the design team. Vance, known for her sharp intellect and even sharper questions, had just dismissed a proposed holographic display of Hamilton delivering a speech as a glorified movie. Her words cut through the room like a cold draft. "We're investing in an experience," she stated, her gaze sweeping across the room. "Not a historical diorama. We need engagement. Real, unscripted engagement." The project's very future hung in the balance. A palpable tension. Just as the silence threatened to become unbearable, Dr. Reed, her voice surprisingly steady, spoke up. "Eleanor," she began, "what if we could do more than just show Hamilton? What if we could talk to him?" She then gestured to Dr. Kenji Tanaka, the lead AI developer from MIT's Computational History Lab, who, until that moment, had been a quiet observer. Dr. Tanaka, with a slight bow, activated a large screen. On it, a strikingly lifelike, digitally rendered Alexander Hamilton appeared. His eyes, keen and intelligent, seemed to track Vance. "Good afternoon, Miss Vance." The digital Hamilton's voice, rich and resonant, filled the room. "I understand you've concerns regarding the efficacy of our proposed financial education. Perhaps you might pose a question?" Vance, at first startled, leaned forward, a flicker of something new, intrigue, in her eyes. "Mr. Hamilton," she challenged, "how would you advise the Federal Reserve today regarding interest rates in a period of high inflation?" The AI Hamilton didn't hesitate. He launched into a nuanced discussion, referencing historical precedents, his own views on central banking, and the delicate balance between economic growth and currency stability. It wasn't a pre-recorded monologue. It was a genuine, fluid conversation, responding dynamically to follow-up queries. The room erupted, not in chaos, but in a collective gasp, followed by excited murmurs. Vance, her skepticism visibly melting, simply sat back, a slow smile spreading across her face. "That," she declared, "is the experience we need." Her immediate decision to double Fidelity's original pledge, contingent on the full integration of this interactive AI, shifted the project's momentum dramatically. The museum was no longer just a vision. It was a technological frontier, ready to redefine historical education. A bold new direction. The financial injection from Fidelity, now totaling an unprecedented $200 million, galvanized the Museum of American Finance project. This wasn't merely an expansion of existing plans. It necessitated a complete reevaluation of its scope, accelerating its construction timeline and dramatically increasing its technological capabilities. Located at 100 Federal Street in Boston's bustling financial district. The museum's original groundbreaking occurred on May 12, 2024. Construction, overseen by the renowned architectural firm Renzo Piano Building Workshop, went at an accelerated pace, targeting a grand opening on October 17, 2026. This ambitious schedule was only possible due to the influx of capital and a dedicated workforce of over 500 skilled laborers, working in shifts around the clock, according to project management reports. Steel and glass soared skyward. The total estimated cost for the museum's development, including land acquisition, construction, exhibit design, and the integration of advanced interactive technologies, now stands at approximately $550 million. This figure, confirmed by the Boston Redevelopment Authority's public filings, represents one of the largest private cultural investments in the city's history. Inside, the institution will span 6 floors, encompassing nearly 150,000 square feet of exhibition space. Its permanent collection will house over 2,500 historical artifacts, ranging from early colonial coinage, some dating back to 1652, to the original ticker tape machines used during the 1929 stock market crash. These artifacts, meticulously cataloged by a team from the Smithsonian National Museum of American History and verified by independent appraisers, form the bedrock of the narrative. The galleries themselves are designed to immerse visitors in distinct eras of financial history: the colonial and early republic, the Industrial Revolution, the Gilded Age, the Great Depression, and the post-World War II global economy. Each section boasts an average of 6 interactive displays, often incorporating augmented reality overlays. Projections from the Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau estimate the museum could attract upwards of 750,000 visitors in its inaugural year, contributing an estimated $60 million to the local economy through tourism and related services. This projection, based on similar institutions like the Newseum in Washington, D.C., underscores the anticipated public draw. The interactive AI, exemplified by the Hamilton simulation, became the cornerstone of the institution's educational outreach strategy, promising an unparalleled, personalized journey through America's economic past. Every detail, every financial transaction, every pivotal policy decision would be illuminated through dynamic engagement, making complex subjects accessible. Just 46 days. The decision to integrate such sophisticated AI, however, wasn't met with universal acclaim. While museum leadership and Fidelity celebrated a new paradigm in historical education, a significant contingent of academic historians and public intellectuals voiced legitimate concerns. For proponents, led by figures like Dr. Eleanor Vance, the AI offered an unprecedented opportunity to democratize history, making complex economic concepts tangible and relatable. They argued that traditional museum exhibits, while valuable, often struggled to capture the dynamic, conversational essence of historical figures and their decision-making processes. This isn't about replacing the historian, Dr. Vance emphasized in a widely distributed press release. It's about empowering the public to engage with history on a deeply personal level, fostering a genuine curiosity that textbooks alone often can't ignite. The museum's educational team highlighted the AI's ability to adapt to individual learning styles, offering tailored explanations and interactive scenarios previously impossible. They saw it as a powerful tool for financial literacy, bringing the economic debates of the past directly into the present day. Immense potential. Critics, however, weren't convinced by the promise of personalized learning. Many academic historians, particularly those focused on the ethics of public history, expressed profound reservations. Professor Alastair Finch, a prominent economic historian from Harvard University, articulated a common worry in a scathing op-ed for the Boston Globe. We must be vigilant against any technology that blurs the lines between scholarship and entertainment, risking the integrity of historical interpretation for the sake of novelty. An AI, no matter how advanced, is still a construct, a simulation, and it inherently carries the biases of its creators and its training data. This camp worried about the potential for historical anachronisms, or even outright fabrications, if the AI's responses weren't rigorously controlled and continually updated. They questioned the very concept of an AI speaking for a historical figure, arguing it reduced complex people to algorithms, stripping away the nuances of their humanity and the historical context that shaped them. The historical record, they contended, demanded human interpretation, not synthetic conversation. A lesser-known, yet equally potent, debate centered on the very definition of historical authenticity in an AI-augmented world. Some scholars pondered whether the emotional connection fostered by the AI, however powerful, might inadvertently diminish the critical thinking necessary for historical analysis. If Alexander Hamilton could speak directly to you, did it make his letters and treatises less compelling as primary sources? Did the experience overshadow the study? The museum, however, took a clear position. The AI wasn't presented as a replacement for primary sources or academic scholarship, but as an interactive gateway. It's designed to spark interest, to ask questions, to provide a living, breathing context that then drives visitors to seek out the deeper, verified historical record. It aims to bridge the gap between passive observation and active inquiry, transforming the museum visit from a lecture into a dialogue, ultimately enriching the public's understanding of our complex financial heritage. The museum's interactive gateway aims to contextualize history. Yet, behind every financial policy, every economic boom or bust, lie countless individual lives, often unseen, their stories frequently unheard in the grand narratives of national finance. Consider the profound impact of market fluctuations, interest rate shifts, or even the very structure of our banking system, foundations laid centuries ago on the average American family. For many, the abstract world of finance translates directly into tangible realities, the ability to pay rent, to afford groceries, to save for a child's education, or to retire with dignity. A constant struggle. Take, for instance, the countless families who grappled with the fallout of the 2008 financial crisis. Millions lost their homes, their life savings evaporated, and futures once bright dimmed considerably. We recall the agony of people like Maria Rodriguez, a single mother from Phoenix, Arizona, whose meticulously saved down payment for a small house vanished overnight with the collapse of subprime mortgages. She wasn't an investor on Wall Street. She was a worker trying to secure a better future for her children, caught in a system she didn't understand and couldn't control. Her struggle wasn't unique. Across the nation, nearly 10 million Americans lost their homes to foreclosure between 2006 and 2014, a staggering human cost measured not just in dollars, but in shattered dreams, stress-induced illnesses, and profound psychological trauma. This isn't just about historical events. It's about the pervasive, ongoing influence of financial decisions made generations ago and today. The wealth gap, for example, continues to widen, with the richest 1% of Americans now owning more than the bottom 90% combined. This statistic isn't merely a data point. It represents millions of people facing systemic barriers, struggling to access healthcare, education, and economic opportunity. A deep, persistent inequality. The economic anxieties that ripple through communities today, the struggles of small businesses, the burden of student debt, these are direct descendants of historical financial architecture. This enduring legacy demands our empathy, challenging us to look beyond balance sheets and bond markets to the human hearts that beat within the financial framework. Understanding the past, therefore, isn't just an academic exercise. It's a moral imperative, compelling us to question whose prosperity is prioritized and at what cost. Our financial systems, from their very inception, are deeply human constructs, and their ultimate measure must always be found in human well-being, not just economic growth. This is the profound, undeniable truth we must confront. Alexander Hamilton's vision for a strong American economy wasn't merely theoretical. It was forged through a series of audacious, often controversial, policy decisions that fundamentally reshaped the fledgling nation. His first great challenge, and arguably his most impactful, arrived with the national debt. In 1790, as the first Secretary of the Treasury, Hamilton proposed the federal assumption of state debts incurred during the Revolutionary War. States like Massachusetts and South Carolina had amassed significant war debts, while others, notably Virginia, had largely paid theirs off. This decision, enshrined in the Funding Act of 1790, was strategically brilliant. It aimed to consolidate national credit, bind the states more closely to the federal government, and reassure foreign creditors that the United States was a reliable borrower. Immediate consequences were profound. It stabilized the new nation's credit abroad, enabling future borrowing for infrastructure and defense. However, it also sparked fierce opposition, particularly from southern states who felt penalized. A fierce debate. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison vehemently argued against it, seeing it as an overreach of federal power and a boon to speculators who had bought up depreciated state bonds. The political compromise, famously known as the Compromise of 1790, relocated the nation's capital to a southern site on the Potomac River, defusing some regional tensions but leaving deep ideological rifts that would persist for decades. A second, equally transformative decision was Hamilton's advocacy for the first Bank of the United States in 1791, modeled after the Bank of England. This private corporation with public duties would serve as the central repository for government funds, issue banknotes, and provide credit to expand the economy. Hamilton argued its necessity for national financial stability and economic development, presenting his opinion on the constitutionality of the bank to President Washington. Jefferson and Madison again opposed it, arguing it was unconstitutional as the Constitution didn't explicitly grant Congress the power to create a national bank. They feared it would create a powerful financial elite and concentrate too much power in federal hands. Despite their objections, Washington signed the bill. The bank's immediate effect was a surge in national economic activity, providing much-needed capital and a stable currency. However, its existence immediately fueled the nascent partisan divide, solidifying the philosophical chasm between Federalists and Democratic Republicans. This decision, while strengthening the national economy, inadvertently laid the groundwork for America's first two-party system, a political outcome with unforeseen, lasting implications for the very fabric of American governance. The first bank's contentious birth wasn't merely an economic policy decision. It was a crucible for American governance, forging impacts that echo profoundly through the centuries. Its establishment solidified the two-party system, a political structure we've wrestled with ever since. The first chasm between Federalists and Democratic Republicans, born from this very debate, evolved into the foundational blueprint for all subsequent American political alignments. That early ideological split over the very nature and power of the federal government became baked into the nation's political DNA. Today's hyperpartisan landscape, the constant push and pull between centralized authority and individual or states' rights, finds its earliest, most potent roots right here, just about the soul of the republic. Another enduring legacy is the perpetual reevaluation of federal power and its role in the economy. The constitutional arguments waged by Jefferson and Madison against the bank set a precedent for strict constructionism, a legal philosophy still invoked today in debates over everything from healthcare to environmental regulation. Hamilton's vision, conversely, laid the intellectual groundwork for a strong federal government capable of wielding significant economic influence, a vision that ultimately manifested in institutions like the Federal Reserve. America's modern financial infrastructure owes an immeasurable debt to this early, groundbreaking experiment. We're constantly navigating the tension between these two competing philosophies, a dynamic born from those very founding disagreements. This seminal moment is remembered not just in dusty textbooks, but in the very architecture of our financial system. Hamilton, the architect of this controversial bank, is celebrated as the visionary who laid the foundations for American capitalism. His portrait graces the $10 bill, a subtle but constant reminder of his immense financial legacy. The debates he ignited still inform our discussions on fiscal policy, national debt, and the proper scope of government intervention. Every time Congress debates a national spending bill or the Federal Reserve adjusts interest rates, it's operating within a framework first envisioned and fought over during Washington's presidency. What unfolded then was nothing less than the foundational struggle for America's economic and political identity, shaping the nation's character and defining the very parameters of its future. The United States, as we know it, is fundamentally a Hamilton-Jefferson compromise. We've seen how a single financial institution, the First Bank of the United States, didn't just stabilize a nascent economy. It irrevocably shaped America's political identity. That foundational argument about power and money continues to define our nation, influencing every major policy debate and partisan struggle since. It's a powerful testament to how even the most pragmatic decisions, born of urgent necessity, can carry profound, long-term consequences far beyond their immediate purpose. What other historical moments do you believe had such an unforeseen, lasting impact on the American experiment? Think about it. Share your insights in the comments below. If you found this story fascinating, subscribe. We drop new history documentaries every day. And watch our other videos for more untold stories. Follow for more information.